Hello, this is part 3 of our freezer meals. We're moving on to beef. I've cleaned everything, washed my cutting board, washed my knives, even sprayed my scale and my counters with a little bit of a bleach solution. And now I'm cutting up the stew beef. They'll sell it to you as stew beef, but it's really lots of times way too large for one bite. And you want it to be one bite so that there's meat in every bite. So I finished that up. I want to mention something to you in case you don't know. When you store your meat in the refrigerator, put your meat on the very bottom shelf. Why? Because sometimes it leaks and you don't want it leaking out over everything else. That was the case with this stew beef. It was on the very bottom of my refrigerator, so everything that it leaked got into the refrigerator. My daughter calls that getting meat blooded, which is hilarious, but she will not go out and get the meat. You can forget it. And so I was just able to clean that up out of the bottom of the refrigerator. It hadn't touched anything else in the refrigerator, so nothing was lost. So that's always a good practice. All right, so we're going to make beef stew with vegetables utilizing stew beef. We're going to make hamburger vegetable soup with peas and carrots utilizing hamburger meat. And then we're going to make beef teriyaki with sugar snap peas. And I'm going to show you a meat that is very easy. It's not inexpensive. That's why everybody who ordered these beef meals had to have ordered at least 5 meals, because I cannot recoup enough cost on these to make it worth my while if that's all that's ordered. And so make sure if you're doing something like this that you do that as well. So this recipe couldn't be easier. Really, all of them couldn't be easier. I've cut the stew beef into bite-sized pieces. I've put roughly 2 cups of stew beef into each bag, because each bag is going to serve 4 people, and that's 4 ounces per person. I'm putting in a bag of beef stew seasoning mix, which is everything that I would have put in there: onion salt, garlic salt, parsley, salt, pepper, probably a few other things like paprika. I didn't read it. You're going to put this in there, and I'm going to put it in on top of my beef so that as my frozen vegetables melt a little bit, I guess that's what you call it, the water from the vegetables will start to make a marinade over the beef. Now, I give these to my customers just like this. They can choose whether they want to keep it fresh in the refrigerator or whether they want to freeze it. If they do freeze it, which all of them are freezer friendly, I advise them to lay it flat so they can get more into their freezer. But these are 28-ounce bags of stew vegetables. We're utilizing convenience foods today, but most frozen vegetables, I read and I hear, whether that is the case or not, I don't know, but most frozen vegetables are frozen at the peak of their life, or that's what they say anyway. So I'll need 3 heaping cups of vegetables. Give me just a moment. To rinse and wash that cup out. I like to use the same set of measuring cups for everything, because that way I don't have a lot to wash at the end of the day. And my helpers that I used to pay, they're not interested in getting paid their meager amount that I was paying them when they can go clean houses or go to their job at the school and make much, much more money. So I try to keep my mess to a minimum now. And there's that. Beef stew with stewed vegetables, green beans, carrots, corn, tomatoes, onions, potatoes. Looks really good. Now add 3 cups of water to that on serving day, and it will be a lovely beef stew for 4 people. Now for the hamburger vegetable soup. I have 1 full order, which is 6, and the rest are half orders, which feed 4 people. And so to each of these, I'm going to add a bag. Getting a new knife, that one has meat on it. I'm going to add a bag of frozen peas and carrots. I'm going to add about 3/4 cup of corn, some onion mushroom soup mix. I asked for the vegetable soup mix, but this is what was substituted, so I'm going to add that, and then some petite diced tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and put the spice on the bottom. I'm going to do this one because my recipe's for 6 people and I won't have to make any allowances. Go ahead and put the spice on the bottom with the meat. And then I'm going to put in my tomatoes. I guess I could have opened these ahead of time before I started the camera rolling, but I'm just not that clever. I forget about things like that. I have a lot of things on my mind. Farm, family, husband, making money, all of those things. So it's going to get a 1.5 cans of the petite diced tomatoes, and then we'll measure the other out. It gets about 1 1/3 cups each. The peas and carrots. And we'll do, let's see how many servings are in here. 11 half-cup servings, so that's 5 1/2 1-cup servings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that won't be enough for 1 cup for everybody. I wasn't able to get the size bags that I needed, and that's why I'm having to measure all this out. If you were able to get the size bags that you needed, the little 12-ounce bags or 8-ounce bags, then this would become even easier. All right, so I think that's it. Let's check and see. Corn, peas and carrots, tomatoes, seasoning mix, ground beef is in the bottom, and we're going to set that, put that into the crock pot with 3 cups of water on the day we want to cook it. And once it's finished, you break apart the hamburger meat and you enjoy. That will be delicious hamburger vegetable soup. Make a pan of cornbread. There's not much that gets better than that on a crisp autumn day. For this last recipe, we are going to utilize a product that I use in several of my dishes. It is sirloin steak strips. They're breakaway sirloin steak strips. Mine come from my local Sam's in a box like this. They come in a package. Each one is 4 ounces, and they cook up really nicely. I like to use them for stir fries, and the other thing, when I'm not putting them in a crock pot meal, that I like to use them for is Philly cheesesteaks. Now, they're not cheap, so make sure that you do something to offset your cost. This recipe calls for these steaks, these snap peas, and some teriyaki sauce. I didn't feel like that was enough. I'm very careful about my ingredients, and I'm very careful to keep a watch on them because you can get upside down real quick if you don't stick to a serving size. But because I do this for a living, I like for everything to look nice and full. An onion is a delicious and relatively expensive add that will help keep everything looking nice and full and not break the bank. It's getting close to lunchtime. I'm ready to eat something, probably some leftover cube steak from breakfast. I'm going to go ahead and label this. It's a half portion, so I'll need enough for 4 people. It says to add it into the crock pot with water, but they didn't have dry teriyaki seasoning mix, so I got a teriyaki marinade. We won't need any water if that's what we're doing. So basically, we just have to cook it on low for 4 to 6 hours, or high for 3 to 4 hours. And that is beef teriyaki. Make sure I spell that right. Teriyaki. All right, so to this, I'm going to add 4 portions of the thinly sliced sirloin steak. I have to be careful. I cut my finger not paying attention the other day. I was looking at something else, and I rarely cut myself while I'm cooking because I've been cooking a long time and I don't really get in a hurry. But I looked away and just sliced right through my little finger. It's healed up nicely now though. Okay, so 4 portions of that. I'm going to break it apart just a little bit. You can see how thinly sliced it is. Very, very nice. Very thinly sliced, very nice. I'm going to add to that my onion. I may not even add the whole onion. I just want it to look good. Yeah, I think I'm going to add it all. That beef and the onion will get all caramelly with that sauce because teriyaki sauce has quite a bit of sugar in it. And we're going to add, let's see, this is 12 ounces, so we're going to add about half of that bottle because they said to add half a cup of water. So 6 ounces of that should be good. Let's get a measuring cup. Measure inside your bag, and that way, if you drop any, you don't have a big cleanup. Measure inside my bag. Get all of that out of there. Mix that up good so that meat can be marinating. And then, knife was just used to, let's get this little serrated knife. It's so much better. Cut away from yourself. Cut away from yourself. Okay. And snap peas. They go right in on top. And then when you dump it into your crock pot, you kind of position it so the meat will be on the bottom. And there we have beef teriyaki with sugar snap peas. Ready to go. Thanks for joining me for part 3 of the beef dishes. Lastly, we'll be doing the pork, utilizing some of my own homegrown pork. Stick around for part 4. Hope your day's as good as mine. Like, share, subscribe.